The stars were cold and silent in the Korth Nebula. Purple clouds of gas stretched across the darkness like bruises on the face of space. It was here, at the edge of nowhere, that the Valkyrie Dominion had gathered its war fleet. 900 ships floated in perfect formation. Their hulls were black as night, shaped like curved daggers ready to cut through anything in their path. The Valkyrie had spent 10,000 years conquering the galaxy. They had crushed 17 star systems under their rule. Entire species had fallen to their might. Some had become slaves. Others had simply stopped existing. Supreme Commander Thalvex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. He was tall, even for a Valkyrie. His body was covered in thick gray scales. 4 yellow eyes scanned the screens around him. His long tail swept slowly across the metal floor as he watched his fleet prepare for another easy victory. Today's target was the Andoval colony. 3 million humans lived there. Farmers, workers, families, children. They had built their homes on a small green world at the edge of human space. They thought they were safe. They were wrong. Supreme Commander, one of his officers, called out, "We have detected ships at the nebula's edge." Thalvex turned his massive head. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life. At first, Thalvex thought there must be some mistake. He blinked all 4 eyes and looked again. 12 ships. The humans had sent 12 ships. Thalvex stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was a harsh sound, like rocks grinding together. Soon, his officers joined him. The entire bridge filled with the sound of Valkyrie laughter. "Is this a joke?" Thalvex asked. His mandibles clicked together with amusement. 12 ships against 900? "It appears they are serious, Supreme Commander," the officer replied. "They have positioned themselves directly in our path." Thalvex walked closer to the screen. He studied the human vessels with growing disbelief. They were ugly things. Boxy and rough, with flat surfaces and sharp angles. They looked like they had been built by workers who did not care about beauty. Gray metal plates covered their hulls. Some of the plates did not even match. "Run a full scan," Thalvex ordered. "Tell me what we are dealing with." The results came back quickly. The officer read them aloud, and with each word, the laughter on the bridge grew louder. Primitive kinetic weapons. Chemical propulsion systems. Basic energy shields rated at... Supreme Commander, their shields are rated at less than 1% of our own. Their armor? Standard metal alloys. Nothing special. Our weapons will cut through them like water through sand. Thalvex could not believe what he was hearing. The humans had joined the galactic community only 40 years ago. They were newcomers. Babies, really. Most species did not even take them seriously. They were clever, yes. They had figured out faster-than-light travel on their own. But clever did not mean powerful. Clever did not mean dangerous. "These humans," Thalvex said slowly, "do they not understand what we are? Do they not know what we have done to worlds far stronger than theirs?" "Perhaps they are simply foolish," another officer suggested. "Or perhaps they are brave," said a third. "Bravery without strength is just another word for stupidity," Thalvex replied. He turned away from the screen. "I want this broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Let all species see what happens to those who stand against the Dominion." The order was sent. Within minutes, viewing stations across 32 civilizations were receiving the live feed. Leaders and generals, merchants and scholars all stopped what they were doing to watch. Everyone wanted to see what the humans would do. Most expected it to be short. The Valkyrie had a reputation. They did not just defeat their enemies. They destroyed them completely. They left no survivors. They burned worlds. They salted the ground so nothing would ever grow again. The Dominion believed in total victory. And now, 12 human ships stood in their way. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Thalvex settled into his command chair. It was made of dark stone, carved with the symbols of every species the Valkyrie had conquered. Soon, he thought, human symbols would join them. "Open a channel to the human fleet," he commanded. "I wish to speak to whoever is foolish enough to lead them." The communication link was established. A moment later, a human face appeared on the screen. She was female, with dark skin and hair that was turning gray at the edges. Her eyes were brown and calm. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations except for a small symbol on her shoulder. She did not look afraid. "I am Supreme Commander Thalvex of the Valkyrie Dominion," he announced. "You are blocking the path of the mightiest fleet in the galaxy. Identify yourself." "Admiral Elena Vasquez," the human replied. Her voice was steady. "United Earth Navy." "Admiral Vasquez." Thalvex said her name like it was something unpleasant in his mouth. "You have courage. I can see that. But courage alone will not save you today. Look at your fleet. Look at mine. Surely you can count. I can count just fine. Then you know you cannot win." The human did something strange then. She smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was there. "Maybe," she said. "Maybe not." Thalvex leaned forward in his chair. "I will offer you one chance, human. One chance only. Turn your ships around and leave this place. If you do, I will allow your species to serve the Dominion. You will be slaves, but you will be alive. And if we refuse, then I will destroy your fleet. After that, I will continue to Andoval Colony. 3 million of your people live there. I will kill them all. Every man, every woman, every child. Their world will burn, and the galaxy will remember it as a lesson." The human admiral did not look away. She did not blink. She simply stared at him with those calm brown eyes. "Those 3 million people," she said quietly. "They are the reason we are here. 12 ships cannot stop me. We are not here to stop you, Commander." Thalvex paused. Something about her words made him uneasy, but the feeling passed quickly. What could 12 ships possibly do? "You are here to die, then," he said. Admiral Vasquez nodded slowly. "If that is what it takes." She ended the transmission. Thalvex sat in the sudden silence of his bridge. His officers waited for his command. Outside, the 12 human ships still held their position. They had not moved. They had not retreated. "Foolish creatures," Thalvex muttered. He raised one clawed hand. "All ships. Attack formation. Destroy them." The Dominion fleet began to move. 900 black warships advanced toward 12 gray defenders. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched and waited. The battle for Andoval Colony had begun. Admiral Elazvaz stood perfectly still as the screen went dark. Around her, the bridge of the UN Defiance was quiet. Her crew had heard every word of the conversation with Thalvex. They knew what was coming. She turned to face them. There were 43 people on the bridge. Young officers and old veterans. Some had families waiting for them back on Earth. Others had already lost everything to war. They had all volunteered for this mission. "You heard him," Vasquez said. Her voice was calm but strong. 900 ships. They want to kill 3 million innocent people on Andoval. Children are playing in those streets right now. Parents are cooking dinner. They have no idea what is heading their way. She paused and looked at each face around her. We are all that stands between those people and death. 12 ships. I will not lie to you. I will not pretend this is going to be easy. Most of us will not survive today. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. But we are not here to win, Vasquez continued. We are here to buy time. Every minute we hold this line is another minute for evacuation ships to reach Andover. Every second we fight is another life saved. That is our mission. That is why we are here." Lieutenant Commander David Park, her second-in-command, stepped forward. He was a young man with sharp eyes and steady hands. He had served under Vasquez for 8 years. "Admiral," he said, "the crew is ready. We all knew what this mission was when we signed up. No one is backing out now." Vasquez nodded. She felt a warmth in her chest. Pride. These were good people. The best she had ever served with. "Then let us show these aliens what humans are made of," she said. "All hands, battle stations." The bridge exploded into activity. Officers ran to their posts. Screens lit up with tactical information. The hum of the ship's engines grew louder as power was redirected to weapons and shields. Vasquez walked to the main viewport. Through the thick glass, she could see the rest of her small fleet. 11 other ships floated in formation around the Defiance. They were not beautiful ships. They were working ships, built for function rather than form. But they were tough. Humans had always built things to last. But Canterbury was the oldest. She had been in service for 60 years. Her captain was a woman named Sarah Chun, a veteran of 3 wars. The Thunderchild was the fastest. Her captain was Marcus Webb, a man who had once outrun a pirate fleet through an asteroid field. The Iron Mountain was the toughest. Her hull was twice as thick as standard ships. Her captain was Yuki Tanaka, who had survived the explosion of her previous ship by sealing herself in an escape pod for 3 days. Each ship had a story. Each crew had a reason to fight. "Admiral," Park called out, "the Dominion fleet is advancing. They will be in weapons range in 4 minutes. Understood." Vasquez turned back to her crew. "Open a channel to all ships." A moment later, she was speaking to every captain in her fleet. "This is Admiral Vasquez. I am not going to give you a long speech. You know why we are here. You know what we are facing. I just want you to know that it has been an honor serving with each of you. Whatever happens today, the galaxy will remember what we did here. Our families will know. Our children will know. Humanity will remember." She paused. "Now let us make them work for it." Vasquez out. The channel closed. On the Defiance, her crew finished their preparations in silence. Weapons were loaded. Shields were powered up. Medical teams stood ready in the halls below. "Admiral," Park said quietly, "there is still time to retreat. Command would understand. No one expects us to actually fight 900 ships." Vasquez shook her head. "If we retreat, those ships reach Andover 12 hours earlier." 12 hours, Park. That is 20,000 more people dead. Maybe more. I am not willing to pay that price. "Neither am I," Park admitted. "I just wanted to make sure you had thought about it." "I have thought about nothing else for 3 days." Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. "My daughter is on Andover. She teaches at a school in the northern city. 3rd grade. Little kids learning about math and reading." Park's eyes widened. "I did not know. I did not tell anyone. I did not want anyone to think I was doing this for personal reasons." She looked out at the approaching enemy fleet. "But the truth is, we are all doing this for personal reasons. Every person on Andover is someone's daughter, someone's son, someone's parent. That is what makes them worth protecting." The first Dominion ships came into visual range. They were massive things, sleek and black, covered with weapons. One of them was larger than all 12 human ships combined. "Enemy fleet entering weapons range in 60 seconds, an officer announced. Vasquez took a deep breath. She had served in the Navy for 32 years. She had fought in 4 wars. She had watched friends die and held their hands while they took their last breaths. But nothing had ever felt like this moment. "All ships," she commanded, "form defensive crescent. Concentrate fire on the lead vessels. Make every shot count." The 12 human ships moved into position. They formed a curved line, like a shield of steel and courage standing against the darkness. 30 seconds. Vasquez gripped the railing in front of her. Her knuckles turned white. "Remember," she said to her crew, "we are not trying to win. We are trying to survive long enough for help to arrive. Every minute matters. Every second matters. Do not take unnecessary risks, but do not hold back either. Fight smart. Fight hard. Fight human. 10 seconds." The Dominion fleet opened fire. The first volley lit up the darkness like 1,000 angry stars. Beams of blue energy lanced across the void, aimed directly at the human formation. "All ships, evasive action." Vasquez shouted. "Return fire." The Defiance shook as the first shot struck her shields. Warning lights flickered across the bridge. But the shields held. The human ships began to move, dancing between the enemy fire with a grace that surprised the Valkyrie. And then the humans fired back. Their weapons were primitive by galactic standards. Simple metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds. No fancy energy beams. No guided missiles. Just chunks of metal hitting enemy ships at a fraction of the speed of light. The first Dominion destroyer took a direct hit. Its shields flickered. A second shot punched through and tore into the hull. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship began to spin out of control. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Dalvex watched with growing disbelief. "How?" he demanded. "How are they doing this?" His officers had no answer. The battle had just begun, and already, the humans were proving that they would not die quietly. They would fight. They would bleed the enemy for every inch of space dot, and somewhere, in the darkness beyond the nebula, something ancient was watching. Something was coming. Help was on the way. The battle raged across the darkness of space. Fire and metal filled the void where the two fleets clashed. The sound of explosions could not travel through the emptiness, but inside the human ships, every hit echoed like thunder. The Canterbury was the first to fall. She had been fighting for 45 minutes when a concentrated volley from 6 Dominion cruisers overwhelmed her shields. Captain Sarah Chun ordered all hands to abandon ship. Only half of her crew made it to the escape pods before the reactor exploded. Admiral Vasquez watched the Canterbury die from the bridge of the Defiance. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes burned. But she did not look away. These were her people. She would honor them by witnessing their sacrifice. "Enemy ships closing on our left flank," Lieutenant Commander Park reported. His voice was strained but steady. 12 destroyers. They are trying to surround us. "Tell the Thunderchild to intercept," Vasquez ordered. "Buy us time to reposition." The Thunderchild was the fastest ship in the fleet. Captain Marcus Webb threw his vessel into the path of the enemy destroyers. His ship twisted and turned through a storm of enemy fire. Her guns blazed without stopping. 3 Dominion ships fell before the Thunderchild took a critical hit to her engines. "Thunderchild is dead in space," an officer called out. "Captain Webb is reporting massive casualties." "Tell him to abandon ship," Vasquez said. "Get those people out of there." It was too late. The Dominion ship showed no mercy. They continued to fire on the Thunderchild, even as escape pods launched from her sides. Vasquez watched as bright explosions marked the deaths of people she had known for years. 2 hours into the battle, 5 human ships remained. The Defiance, the Iron Mountain, the Valiant, the Northern Star, and the Constellation. Against them stood over 800 Dominion vessels, but the humans had not died for nothing. 47 Dominion ships drifted dead in space. Their hulls were torn open by human weapons. Their crews were gone. The primitive kinetic slugs had proven far more dangerous than anyone had expected. "This is impossible," Thalvex growled on his bridge. He stared at the tactical display with all four eyes wide. "How are they still fighting?" His tactical officer shook his head. "Their weapons are simple, Supreme Commander, but they fire them very fast. And they never miss. They are dying. Why do they not retreat?" "I do not know, Supreme Commander." Thalvex slammed his fist against his command chair. The stone cracked under the impact. "Enough of this. All capital ships forward. I want those humans destroyed. Now." The main body of the Dominion fleet began to move. Massive battleships and carriers joined the attack. Their weapons lit up space with enough firepower to crack a moon. On the Defiance, warning sirens screamed from every corner. "Multiple hits on decks 7 through 12, an officer reported. "We are losing atmosphere. Hull breaches in 6 sections." "Seal them off," Vasquez ordered. "Redirect power from non-essential systems to shields." "Admiral, there are people trapped in those sections." Vasquez closed her eyes for just a moment. When she opened them, they were hard as iron. "I know. Seal them off anyway. We need to keep fighting." It was the hardest order she had ever given. She could hear the screams through the communication system. She would hear them for the rest of her life, however long that might be. Park moved to stand beside her. "Admiral, we have been fighting for almost 3 hours. How much longer do we need to hold?" Vasquez checked her personal display. The numbers glowed in the dim light of the damaged bridge. 6 more hours. The evacuation ships need 6 more hours to reach Andover and begin loading civilians. 6 hours. Park's voice was hollow. "We will be dead in 6 hours. Probably." Vasquez looked at him. "But probably is not certainly. We keep fighting until we cannot fight anymore. That is all we can do." The Valiant exploded at the 3-hour mark. Her captain, a young man named Rodriguez, had deliberately rammed his crippled ship into a Dominion carrier. The explosion took both vessels and damaged 3 more enemy ships. The Northern Star lasted another 30 minutes. Her crew fought until their last weapon was empty, and their shields were gone. Then they overloaded their reactor and took a dozen Dominion fighters with them. 4 hours in, only 3 human ships remained. The Defiance was barely holding together. Half her weapons were destroyed. Her shields were failing. Fires burned in her lower decks. Medical teams worked without rest, trying to save the wounded. The Iron Mountain was in better shape, but not by much. Captain Tanaka had positioned her vessel to protect the Defiance. Her thick hull absorbed punishment that would have destroyed any other ship. The Constellation was the youngest ship in the fleet. Her captain was a woman named Akantuo, barely 30 years old. She had been a cargo pilot before the war. Now she fought like a demon. "Admiral," Park said suddenly. His voice had changed. There was something in it that Vasquez had not heard before. "Oh, Admiral, I am picking up something on long-range sensors." "What is it?" I do not know. It is big. Very big. And it is heading this way fast." Vasquez felt her heart skip. "Can you identify it?" Park worked his console. The bridge fell silent. Everyone was watching, waiting, hoping. "Admiral." Park's voice cracked. "It is the Prometheus." The word spread through the ship like wildfire. The Prometheus. The oldest and largest ship in the human fleet. A legend. A monster. A hope. Vasquez grabbed her communication console. "All ships, this is Admiral Vasquez. Hold the line. Help is coming. I repeat, help is coming. Just a few more minutes. Just hold on a few more minutes." On the Dominion flagship, an officer approached Thalvex with a trembling voice. "Supreme Commander, we are detecting a massive energy signature approaching from Sector 7. "What kind of signature?" We have never seen anything like it. The readings do not make sense. Whatever it is enormous. Thalvex turned to face the main view screen. Something was happening in the distance. Space itself seemed to be folding. A darkness was forming, a darkness deeper than the void around it. And then, from that darkness, something began to emerge. Every sensor on every Dominion ship screamed in alarm. "What is that?" Thalvex whispered. He was about to find out. The fabric of space tore open like a wound, and the universe thought it was not a normal jump point. Normal ships created small ripples when they entered or exited faster than light travel. This was different. This was a hole in reality itself, spanning 300 kilometers from end to end. Purple lightning crackled along its edges. The nebula's gas cloud swirled around it like water circling a drain, and from within that impossible darkness, something emerged. The U in Prometheus entered normal space with the force of a dying star. She was old. That was the first thing anyone noticed. Her hull was covered in scars and patches, burns from plasma weapons, dents from kinetic impacts, repair plates welded over wounds that should have killed her a dozen times over. She looked like something that had crawled out of hell and refused to stay dead. She was also absolutely massive, 4 kilometers long, 2 kilometers wide, a mountain of metal and fury floating in the void. Her shape was brutal and functional. No elegant curves, no beautiful lines, just angles and armor and weapons. So many weapons. The Dominion fleet stopped moving. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Thalvex stared at the view screen with all 4 eyes. His mouth hung open. His officers had frozen at their stations. No one spoke. No one breathed. "That is impossible," Thalvex finally whispered. "No one builds ships that large. It is inefficient, impractical." "Supreme Commander," his tactical officer said, his voice shaking, "our sensors are reading over 2,000 weapon systems on that vessel, and I am detecting massive energy buildups in what appear to be launch bays." "Launch bays?" As if in answer, the Prometheus opened her sides. Hangar doors, the size of city blocks, slid apart. From within, lights began to appear. Hundreds of lights, then thousands. They poured out of the great ship like angry wasps from a disturbed nest. Fighters, bombers, gunships, assault craft. Wave after wave of smaller vessels screamed into the void. They moved in perfect formation, spreading out to surround the Dominion fleet. "I count 3,000 fighter-class vessels," an officer reported. 400 bombers, 200 heavy gunships. "Supreme Commander, they outnumber our fighter wings 5 to 1. Thalvex could not respond. He was still staring at the massive ship that had appeared from nowhere. This was not possible. The humans were a young species, a primitive species. They should not have anything like this. A communication signal cut through the chaos. "Dominion Fleet. This is Fleet Admiral James Chun of the United Earth Navy, commanding the UN Prometheus." The voice was old but strong. It carried the weight of decades of war. "You have attacked our people. You have threatened our colony. You have killed our brothers and sisters." On the Defiance, Admiral Vasquez listened to the transmission. Tears were running down her face, but she was smiling. "You thought you were hunting sheep," Chun continued. "You were wrong. You were hunting wolves. And now the pack has arrived." Thalvex found his voice. "This is Supreme Commander Thalvex of the Valkyrie Dominion. You are outnumbered, human. We still have over 800 ships. One vessel, no matter how large, cannot defeat us." There was a pause. Then Chun laughed. It was not a cruel laugh. It was the laugh of someone who knew something his enemy did not. "You still do not understand, do you? You look at us and see a young species, a weak species. You think because we have only been in space for a few centuries that we do not know how to fight. The Prometheus began to move forward, slowly, steadily, like a predator that knew its prey could not escape. Let me tell you something about humans, Commander. We have been fighting each other for 100,000 years. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed billions. We have crawled through the mud and blood of 1,000 battlefields. We have looked into the face of extinction and said no. The fighters from the Prometheus reached the outer edges of the Dominion fleet. They did not attack yet. They just waited, surrounded, ready. That ship you are looking at? The Prometheus? She's 200 years old. She has fought in more battles than your entire species has seen. She has been rebuilt 7 times. Every plate on her hull has a story. Every scar is a victory. Vasquez opened a channel to the Prometheus. Fleet Admiral Chun, this is Admiral Vasquez of the Defiance. I cannot tell you how good it is to hear your voice. Elena. Chun's voice softened. You held the line. 4 hours against 900 ships. The whole damn galaxy is watching. You made humanity proud today. We lost a lot of good people, sir. I know. And they will be remembered. Every single one of them. Chun's voice hardened again. Now get your ships behind us. Collect your escape pods. Save who you can. We will handle the rest. Yes, sir. The 3 surviving human ships began to fall back. As they moved, the Prometheus passed them. Up close, her size was even more overwhelming. She blocked out the stars. A shadow fell across the Dominion fleet like the hand of an angry god. On the eternal conquest, Thalvax watched the massive ship approach. Fear was not something he felt often. He had conquered worlds. He had destroyed civilizations. He was the supreme commander of the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. But now, looking at this ancient human vessel, he felt something cold in his stomach. All ships, he commanded. Attack formation. Concentrate all fire on that ship. Destroy it. The Dominion fleet opened fire. Thousands of weapons blazed to life. Energy beams and missiles and plasma bolts streaked toward the Prometheus. The attack was overwhelming. It should have been enough to destroy any ship ever built. Prometheus did not even slow down. Her shields absorbed the first volley. Her armor deflected the second. Small explosions bloomed across her hull, but they did no real damage. She simply shrugged off the attack and kept coming. And then she fired back. Her main battery spoke. They were not elegant weapons. They were massive electromagnetic accelerators that threw chunks of solid metal at speeds that turned matter into energy on impact. When they hit Dominion ships, those ships simply ceased to exist. The first volley destroyed 12 ships. The second destroyed 20 more. The Prometheus was not just a ship. She was a weapon of war built by a species that had spent its entire existence learning how to kill. She was the accumulated knowledge of 100,000 years of human conflict. She was everything the Velkari had underestimated, and now she was awake. All fighters, Chung commanded, engage at will. Leave none standing. The swarm descended upon the Dominion fleet. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the battle turned. The hunters had become the hunted. The conquerors were being conquered. And at the heart of it all, the Prometheus advanced, relentless, unstoppable. Humanity had come to fight. The battle lasted 11 minutes. 11 minutes to destroy an empire's pride. 11 minutes to teach the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. 11 minutes of fire and metal and death. The Dominion fleet broke apart like glass under a hammer. Ships that had conquered worlds now fled in panic. Vessels that had burned colonies now burned themselves. The perfect formation that had seemed so terrifying just hours ago. Scattered into chaos. Human fighters swarmed through the enemy ranks. They were small and fast and ruthless. They found weak points in Dominion armor. They targeted engines and weapon systems. They worked together like wolves hunting deer, cutting ships out from the herd and tearing them apart. The bombers came next. Heavy ships loaded with enough explosives to crack asteroids. They focused on the larger vessels, the carriers and battleships that formed the backbone of the Dominion fleet. One by one, those great ships died. And through it all, the Prometheus advanced. She moved through the battle like a force of nature. Her weapons never stopped firing. Her shields held against everything the Dominion threw at her. Ships that tried to flee found their escape routes blocked. Ships that tried to fight found themselves outgunned. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Supreme Commander Thalvex watched his fleet die. "Fall back," he ordered. His voice was hollow, empty. "All ships fall back. Retreat to the staging point." But there was no retreat. The human fighters had surrounded them. The Prometheus was blocking their jump point. They were trapped. "Supreme Commander," his tactical officer said, "we have lost 400 ships. Another 200 are damaged beyond combat capability. Our fighters are gone." Thalvex did not respond. He was watching the view screen. The Prometheus had turned. Her massive bow was now pointing directly at the Eternal Conquest. "They are targeting us," someone whispered. The communication system crackled to life. Fleet Admiral Chun's voice filled the bridge. "Thalvex, this is your one chance. Surrender now, and I will accept the survival of your remaining ships. Refuse, and I will destroy every single vessel in your fleet, including yours." Thalvex's claws dug into the arms of his command chair. Surrender. The word was poison. The Valkyrie did not surrender. They had never surrendered. Not in 10,000 years of conquest, but looking at the destruction around him. Looking at the ancient human ship that had torn his fleet apart in minutes. Thalvex understood something he had never understood before. The humans had not sent 12 ships because they were weak. They had sent 12 ships because 12 ships were enough to buy time. Time for the real weapon to ice. "Arrive. You tricked us," Thalvex said quietly. "We did what we had to do to protect our people," Chun replied. "That is what humans do. We protect our own, no matter the cost. 3 million lives on that colony. You risked everything for them. We would have risked more. If we had to sacrifice every ship in our fleet to save those people, we would have done it. That is who we are." Thalvex closed all 4 of his eyes. Around him, his officers waited in silence. The fate of the Dominion fleet rested on his next words. "I do not understand you," he finally said. "Your species makes no sense to me. You are willing to die for others. You throw yourselves into hopeless battles. You refuse to accept defeat, even when defeat is certain." "That is because we know something you do not," Chun said. "We know that some things are worth dying for. Freedom, family, the future of our children. You conquer worlds because you want power. We fight because we love. That is the difference between us. That is why you will never truly defeat us." Thalvex opened his eyes. He looked around his ruined bridge. He thought about the bodies floating in space outside, the ships burning in the void, the empire that had seemed so strong just hours ago. "I surrender," he said. The words tasted like ash. But they were the only words that made sense anymore. The guns of the Prometheus fell silent. The human fighters pulled back. The battle was over. 3 days later, the news had spread to every corner of the galaxy. The Valkyrie Dominion, the most feared power in known space, had been defeated. Their supreme commander was a prisoner. Their fleet was scattered. Their plans for expansion had ended in the cold darkness of the Korath Nebula, and everyone knew who had stopped them. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city. The names of the fallen were read aloud in memorial services. Admiral Vasquez and her crew were declared heroes. The captains who had given their lives, Chan, Rodriguez, Webb, Tanaka, Okonkwo, became legends. On Andoval Colony, 3 million people looked up at the sky and said prayers of thanks. Children who had almost died now played in the streets again. Families who had almost lost everything held each other close. The evacuation ships had never been needed. The Prometheus had arrived in time. 1 week after the battle, the United Earth Parliament sent a message to the Galactic Council. It was broadcast on every frequency, in every language, to every civilization that had watched the battle. Admiral Vasquez was chosen to deliver it. She stood in the great hall of the Parliament building on Earth, wearing her dress uniform for the first time since she had left the academy. Medals covered her chest, but her eyes were tired. She had not slept well since the battle. She doubted she ever would again. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, "you watched us fight. You saw us die. You witnessed what humans are willing to do to protect the people we love." She paused. The faces of her fallen crew members flashed through her mind. Sarah Chun, Marcus Webb, Rodriguez, all the others. Humanity does not seek war. We do not want conquest. We do not dream of empire. We left our homeworld hoping to find friends among the stars. We hoped for peace. Her voice hardened. But we will not stand by while innocents are threatened. We will not watch children die. We will not allow monsters to prey upon the helpless. If you come to us with friendship, you will find us the most loyal allies you have ever known. If you come to us with threats, you will find us the most dangerous enemy you have ever faced. She looked directly into the camera. Remember what happened at Korath Nebula. Remember the 12 ships that held the line. Remember the Prometheus. Remember the 3 million lives on Andoval that we saved. Our final words echoed across the galaxy. Remember what happens when you threaten our children. The message ended. Silence fell across 1 billion worlds. No one ever laughed at humanity again. Far away, on the Prometheus, Fleet Admiral Chun stood alone on the observation deck. He was an old man. His hair was white. His hand shook slightly. He had been fighting for so long that he barely remembered what peace felt like. But today, looking out at the stars, he felt something he had not felt in years. Hope the children of Andoval were safe. The galaxy had received its warning. And humanity had proven, once again, that they would never stop fighting for what was right. Chun smiled. "Not bad," he whispered to the empty room. "For a bunch of primitive apes." He turned and walked away. There was work to be done. There was always more work to be done. But for now, for this one moment, it was enough. It was more than enough.